Well, I'm very glad to be here and to talk to everyone. This is the first time I have done something like this, but with my son who lives in Virginia, we have done this and we have enjoyed it. But we do also do this with our children here in Columbia, Maryland. So let me get started. As you know, I'm doing wheelchairs through the ages. And at Edinburgh in Virginia, I was very happy to be at their museum, and there were a couple different uh, uh, things on wheelchairs that they had printed. And this is where I really started learning about wheelchairs. And a wheelchair is defined as a chair used by a person who has difficulty walking because of sickness, injury, or disability. And before the 19th century, they were called invalid chairs. And this caused me a big problem. And where do you find the information? Well, different people along the way have helped me. Um, And as I go through this, you will see that there are many names for different wheelchairs. And there was only one book, the wheelchair book by Herman Kamenz, that was issued in 1969 that was available. And he claimed that there were no wheelchairs in America before 1869. And this is erroneous because we received lots of things on wheelchairs from Europe. And as we go along, I will tell you more about that. And the wheel and the axle are one of 6 simple machines that allowed heavy objects to be moved. It facilitated movement of transportation while supporting a load or performing as a machine. And earliest known date of wheels and axles being used dates to the Greeks, who put wheelchairs on a bed in order for the person to get outdoors and have some fresh air. And when I heard this, I thought that was really something. And as you can see here, there is the bed on some rollers, and this dates to 530 BC in central Italy, and it's possibly the first representation of an indoor vehicle on wheels. And humans need to be around other people and to socialize. It is just very important. And this is a detail from the Chinese sarcophagus, and it's incised grain stone. It had 3 wheels, 2 in back, right here, and one in front. And the spoke wheels fitted the chariots about 1300 BC. And use of chairs developed early, and this is possibly the oldest evidence of a chair on wheels. Now, the invention of the wheelbarrow was invented by Chu Kolong, and he was it was brought to Europe in the 12th century by the Crusaders, and it is the earliest archaeological evidence from a wheeled cart from the 17th century. And it was a vehicle for carrying any load and transporting individuals to the bath or spa is right here. And still today, we use the the wheelbarrows for gardening and construction. And this is really an early interesting thing that many people do not know. And here is a heavy armchair on rollers. And Hans Weeds in 1531, in a chapter on bloodletting, had this. And the heavy armchair on rollers had an upholstered back here in the seat, and the patient's feet were on a low stool. And this is a forerunner of chairs used for treatment today in hospitals. And here is King Philip of Spain in his rolling chair. And it's a pen drawing from J. Han Lermatite's diary in 1595. He's in a reclining individual invalid chair for an elderly king with gout. And gout was the problem because they didn't do very well on their diets. As this was the custom invalid's chair in history, it had padded furniture and was more comfortable for his gout or arthritis. It had a quilted back and a hinged arms. The back and the leg rests, as you can see down here, they were adjusted, and it moved. The back and the leg rests were adjustable, and it was moved on four small wheels. And the chair was covered with a horsehair mattress, and this was very important. And here is Nicolas Grollier's de Survey in Lyon, France, that collected a lot of curiosities over time. And this rolling chair right here. Oh, no, that doesn't seem to work.
Click it again.
The one item was and as you notice, it has four wheels that were cog wheels with gears attached to hand cranks, and it was so that the occupant could move and turn the chair. And self-propulsion was by cranks, and it was very, very important. Now, Stephan Farfler was a 22-year-old German watchmaker with paralyzed legs, and he had a creative idea for a wheelchair. It was self-propulsion by cranks. And he had a reclining back and an adjustable footboard, which is right here. And the back and seat were upholstered for comfort, as were armrests. And his self-propulsion helped him gain independence. And he was able to move without needing assistance. And this watchmaker really used his wheelchair because he went to work in it, and then, you know, he came home. He was very happy that he could move around without needing assistance. And this was about 300 years before actually things like this had begun to be okay. Now, Sir Thomas Fairfax was the commander-in-chief of the Parliament's army in the English Civil War. And he moved he liked to be out in front during the English Civil War. And so when he was wounded like 18 times, and he also was shot in the shoulder in Yorkshire. And so he used this wheelchair here during retirement in 1859. He wrote his father, I am exceedingly troubled with rheumatism, benumbing coldness in my head, legs, and arms, especially on the side that I have my hurts. Now, if you look at his wheelchair, it is all wood. It has a back wheel here that helps him move, especially when he is making turns. He also has a footrest. And this is many years old, and yet it still looks pretty good. And let's go on to the next one. Now, this is a Gouty chair. The maker in England is unknown. It is made from mahogany with brass fittings and black upholstery right here. And it's made for people suffering from gout. And it's also a comfortable wing chair right here. And it keeps drafts away. It is also self-propulsion by cranks. And as you can see, he has a place for his feet, and here's the back end so that he of his chair. I mean, where he would be turning, and this was really helpful to him. And as he used this, the brass fittings with the black upholstery sometimes changed a little bit in color, but he did use the self-propulsion by hand cranks. That was one of the best things about some of these pieces, that they could be used and were used. Now here's King Louis XIV. As you know, he was the Sun King. And the king's health was not good at all. And in November 18th, 1686, he underwent anal fistula surgery. The wound healed in 2 months. He had been on a special bed. And he also had a special chair on wheels that was built for him, and it was known as a roulette. And that is a different word that they called, his, that they called. And he did use this special chair before his death because of severe pain from gout. And that was really a problem. And here is a painting of King Louis XIV. I was really surprised that he had such beautiful legs. And I know that was the painter who did this. And I'm just really surprised that it was done that way at that time. So that is just something different. Now, here is the bath chair, and it was James Heath developed the bath chair for his English spa in Bath, England. And it had two large wheels in back and a smaller one in front. And the chair was pushed from behind. And the occupant who was in riding steered with a horizontal bar in front of him, and that is the frontal bar right there. And John Dawson in 1782 was the principal maker of these chairs and created a user-friendly rolling chair for an immobile person. And unfortunately, I do not have a picture of John Dawson, but Dawson's advertisement states a large assortment of chairs for sale or to let on hire in town or country, and that he is enabled to give the attention to the chair line, which the safety of individuals require. Now, that is the first time I have heard this. And the safety of these individuals was very important. And they had to learn these things as they went on. And comfort started being important in the 18th century for the human body in relationship to body contours in chairs. And today we really don't think of anything about that because we know that the chairs are comfortable. We can sit in them and decide, oh, that is comfortable.
Go back.
I have to go back. This is John Joseph Merlin in the red coat. And he invented this Invalid mechanical chair right here. And it was self-propulsion by cranks. It had reclining back and an adjustable footboard. It had a seat and back upholstered for comfort, as were the armrests. And the chair was a custom, elegant look for a wealthy patron. And it does speak, as you look at it, that it was really very, very comfortable. And so something like this, of his design was really popular, and people with money enjoyed being comfortable. Now here's the first American reference to wheeled invalid chairs. In 1751, Thomas Elf was a cabinet maker in Charleston, South Carolina. He stuffed and covered a chair for sick and weak people. Also, William Long was a cabinet maker and carver from London. In 1788, he developed a Gouty chair. And the chair was intended for gout or rheumatic disorders, so people could move from room to room, and then a servant could take them out to garden to take air in the evening. And Mrs. Jane Billpoint of Savannah, Georgia, in early the 19th century had 6 wheelchairs of you, probably of English origin. And if you look here to the right, you will see that this is the Elf house. And so with the people coming to America, they did have, they had wheelchairs probably, that were brought from England. And here's a rocking armchair as a wheeled chair. It is dated from 1810 to 30. The maker is unknown, but probably from New Lebanon, New York. And it was composed of birch, maple, beech, ash, splint, chestnut, walnut, brass, iron, and steel. And apparently, this is the way that they went and picked up different things and put it into a wheelchair. And this was a shaker style wheelchair with wheels attached with no leg rest. There also is the back area where it, the little where it could change and help balance when people went. But why would anybody make a wheelchair like this? Because the person could sit down. He could probably put his feet up and he could have a ride. But that I wonder if anybody has any things about it. I'd like to hear it. It's different. Now, here is a wheeled invalid chair from 1825 to 40. And this is from the Pennsylvania Farm Museum of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It's a wheeled invalid chair, light mustard, with yellow ground with black. It's also made of various woods and iron, and it is made from a high back chair with two large spoke wheels and a small rear wheel. And it does have a footrest, and mechanical types of all these chairs were popular in the second quarter of the 19th century. Now, M.W. King was chairman on Broadway, New York City. He manufactured a variety of seating to many needs for ailing or infirm. And the types of these the chairs made was really something. Pivotal reclining chairs, recumbent revolving chairs, self-acting extension recovering chairs, improved invalid wheelchairs, and a variety of mechanical chairs for comfort and convenience. And as you see, he had in 1853 an ad in the Water Cure Journal, and it was easy to obtain specialized seating in large metropolitan centers of the day. Now, Thomas Minnis had a patent number 9708, and it was made as an improvement to the invalid locomotive chair on May 10th, 1853. And it improved the front running gear on invalid chairs. He put a bearing between the shaft and the wheel in relationship to give better support and a smoother and cheaper ride for the occupant. And here is Garibaldi's rolling Chaise lounge. His physician ordered this chair bed to hasten his convalescence. It was easy and secure transportation. Otherwise, he had to keep in his room and get bored. And so he had a versatile tray for eating, reading, and writing. He had an adjustable footboard, and the Chaise lounge could be transferred into a bed by lowering the back to the horizontal level, and then raise the leg section. And this is from a drawing in the German magazine Die Gartenlaube in 1863. And as you can see here, there is one wheel, and also probably another one at the end of the bed, but it is not really shown in this picture, but it is there. Now, little use of invalid chairs in the armory is reported. Invalid chairs are not listed in the standard supply table for the general and post hospitals, but the general supply table was used for people in the hospital. And the invalid chairs appear to have been added at near the end of the war. There were 3 invalid chair prescriptions were found in medical surgical history, and also there were 3 existent photographs of patients in wheelchairs in hospitals. 2 were taken in Armory Square Hospital and 1 in Carver Hospital. And 2 CDVs are also found of wounded men in wheelchairs. And HS and MB had thigh wounds wounded in March 1865, and they were amputated. And JW had a thigh wound, and he had a mid-femur resected. And so all 3 of these people were transferred to Armory Square Hospital in Washington, D.C., and the invalid chairs were ordered by the surgeon for each of these men, which at the end of the war was really a little different. And here is a photo from Ward K Armory Square Hospital in Washington, D.C. in 1864. And there is a large spoked front wheels. There were no hand rims, and so there was a small rear wheel, and there was a footrest, but no leg support. And the back looks like an ordinary chair. And if you notice, all of the men are dressed for the day. And apparently that's the way it was in Armory Square Hospital. Now, here's a photo of Carver Hospital in Washington, D.C. in 1865. Notice the heavy wooden front wheels with wooden spikes and hand rims. Now the hand rims were for self-propulsion. And as you can see, there is just a little outgrowth, and that was for his hands, and they would keep clean. And there was a footrest, and it was a self-propelled chair. And again, he had an area where he could look and do some reading. And here's another photo of Armory Square Hospital. It shows a different wheelchair. It has larger wheels, fewer spokes, and no hand rims, but it looks like the fella is doing pretty good all by himself. And he has his hand rest, and he also has, they had an urn of coffee for them, which is something a little bit different. And this is dated 1865. Now, this is a Union wounded soldier, Hiram Williams. He was injured in the Battle of Appomattox Courthouse, and he's awaiting an artificial leg. And he was discharged on April 8th, 1865, and he is holding a plaque that it is his name, and he will have his picture taken, and that will go into the doctor's room and will be studied further. And here is James Armstrong. He is from Company K, 1st South Carolina Infantry, and he had a gunshot wound to the right tibia, which is his leg is extended. And he was taken a prisoner while being treated at Hardwood Hospital in Washington, D.C. His other foot is on his wheelchair, and it has a back place to help him turn. And we will go to the next slide that has this wheelchair was really bought at auction in South Carolina, which really surprised me. And and there was no written provenance, but is said to be of Civil War era. And as you can see, it was made from a wood chair with a padded seat and back, and the chair sits on a carriage axle with standard spoked wheels with iron tires, and it has a small rear wheel for balance and turning, and it was custom made, probably at home, for a loved one. And I really did not find too much about what the Confederacy did, but I think looking at it, it probably is an example that they just went and made something at home for their loved ones. And here's a Civil War era oak wheelchair. It has a removable commode set underneath. It has individual leg supports, and it has two smaller spoked front wheels with the two rear wheels smaller. And the cane chair back reclines, and it's individually elevated leg support, but it has no hand rims. And as you notice, there are four wheels and 4 small wheels, and that is very unusual. It's the only one I've seen in all the research that I have done. And here is a group of disabled veterans that have been wounded, and they are at the Lincoln Institute in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where they are training for new jobs. And note the Civil War veteran that is sitting in the wheelchair in the front. He also wants help. And here is General Daniel Sickles. Everybody knows that he was a New York City lawyer, politician, and in the General Civil War. He remained in the Army until the war ended. And here he is sitting in his wheelchair, and with his right leg off. He used the wheelchair also at the end of his life because of pain, and he needed to get around. You would not find him all day in a house. He needed to be busy. And he died May 3rd, 1913, with burial at Arlington National Cemetery. Now, this is a patent for an improved wheelchair in 1869. It was designed by Blunt and Smith. It was their Invalid chair, and there was an upholstered back that could decline backward at any given point. And there were two wheels with no back legs attached to the seat by means of springs. The footrest can be elevated or lowered independently of all the rest, and it worked on two small cogwheels turned by a small crank. And many adjusted to the upright chair or a flat lounge as occupants may desire. And here's an Eastlake style wheelchair. The metal rimmed wooden chair, wooden wheels with hand rims for propulsion. It had a curved back seat and footrest, and it had a upholstered horsehair filled arms, and it is currently at our museum in Frederick. And here's an 1870 photo of Harriet Baker Rowe in a wheelchair holding her cane in her right hand. And she appears confident and relaxed. She's having a CDV made, and she's living in the world. She's not being reclusive because of an inability to walk. And here's a Connecticut wheelchair of 1871. It has a wooden frame with cane seat and back and leg rest. And it has two front wheels with wood, but they are lighter, and the third wheel is in the rear. This is 1871 Wilson's adjustable iron chair. And George Wilson of New York City patented this chair, constructed totally of iron. It was really, I want to see what I can do. And he upholstered the back, chair back, legs, arms, and rests. And the stick shift on the right side, the handle is an adjustment that the chair tilts to any angle from seat to bed and beyond. And he has a leg and footrest, and it can be compactly folded for transportation. And here's another New Haven folding wheelchair, and it has two large wheels with one single small rear wheel. It has a wicker seat and back and leg rest. There are no hand rims for large wheels, and it's currently at our museum. And it's early 1870s, and here is just it's just telling you that the company is New Haven Folding Wheelchair. And they had rolling chairs in Europe. Well, rolling chairs came to Atlantic City, New Jersey, and the rolling chairs were introduced in 1876 convention to be rented to tourists, and they were similar to the bath chairs. And this was the idea of local businessman William Hayday. I do not have his picture. And the chairs are fashioned after wheelchairs, and were the only vehicles allowed on the Atlantic City boardwalk. First, they were used for people who were unable to walk. And then they became so popular that everyone used them. And I think this is a good way to introduce to people that everyone doesn't always have, four legs, or I'm sorry, two legs and two arms. But it became very, very popular. Now, here is Colonel Elijah Parkhurst and his wife Elizabeth. The general's left leg had been amputated, and the right leg had blood poisoning. And he was a Union Civil War veteran, and in 1880, he purchased this wheelchair, and this is from Peter Gendron, and he was started the wheelchair business in 1880, and there's still, I checked on this, the Gendron company is still in business. They may not have too many wheelchairs, but they do have things that are manufactured, for people that need them. And so I find that very, very important. But the wheelchairs are very different in the fact that, I'm sorry, that they are very, very different, and perhaps easier for these people to work that way. Now, medical correction in the 19th century was for the injured with a prosthesis to replace or augment what was lost. And wire-spoked wheels from bicycles were fully adaptable to wheelchairs. And wheelchair-bound people were very independent and worked on their own living, for their own living. And the disabled had a bigger say in what was manufactured for them. And this included purchasing special wheelchairs that were ordered by themselves because they were disabled. And the wheelchair gave mobility and independence to these people. Now here there are a lot of stamps from around the country.
World.
And disabled does not mean unable. And here is a UNICEF one where the fella is giving his fiancée a ring, and so that they can get married. And the other ones show around 1900 or more that, there are a lot of things that these people can do. And it included a lot of sports, and this is from all over